I raised her for over 20 years, loving her like my own. But she chose her biological father to walk her down the aisle. When she needed money, she came to me. I said no. I've been married to Hannah, my wife, for more than 2 decades. When we first met, Hannah was raising her 5-year-old daughter, Lily, on her own. Lily had the brightest eyes I'd ever seen, a curious mind, and a laugh that filled the entire room with joy. I'll never forget our first meeting. Lily was chasing after a paper airplane at the park, gripping Hannah's hand as they walked my way. In that moment, something told me clearly. These two were going to be my family someday. Right from the beginning, Hannah was honest about her past. Lily's biological dad, Ethan, had always been inconsistent, full of promises he rarely kept, and only popping into her life briefly. He'd call around her birthday, show up with some cheap gift, and then vanish for months. Lily would always get her hopes up whenever he appeared, even though Hannah did her best to keep her expectations realistic. As Hannah and I became more serious, she was clear from day one that Lily was always going to come first. I understood completely and embraced that role. But what caught me off guard was how deeply I ended up loving Lily. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly, every "I love you, Dad," she said, and every goofy drawing with my name misspelled made my heart melt. I was there when she finally rode her bike after countless tumbles and scraped knees. I was there during those scary midnight fevers, holding her close while Hannah searched desperately for the thermometer. When she prepared for her very first school recital, we practiced her poem together until she knew every word. On performance day, Lily stood nervously behind the curtain, peeking out until she found my face in the audience, needing reassurance that I was there. And of course, I always was. Ethan, though, was more like a minor character who never stuck around long. He constantly made big promises, things like, "Next summer, I'll take you to the beach," or "I'll buy you the new bike you want," but he never delivered. Lily would cry her heart out every time those promises fell apart, and I was always the one there to comfort her. I never wanted Lily to stop believing in her dad because of something I'd said or done. As she got older, our relationship grew even stronger. I attended her parent-teacher conferences, helped her choose the perfect graduation dress, and shouted encouragement from the bleachers at all her games. She called me Dad, and even if we weren't related by blood, it always felt genuine. That's exactly why what happened next shattered my heart. When Lily went off to college, I didn't hesitate for a second to support her. I paid most of her tuition, bought her textbooks, and even covered the rent for her tiny apartment. Sure, it stretched me financially, but I didn't mind one bit. I wanted Lily to get the chances in life that I never had. Ethan, true to his usual form, remained unreliable. Occasionally, he'd phone and say something like, "Dad's proud of you," but he never helped financially or made any meaningful effort to stay involved. On Lily's graduation day, after the ceremony, she ran straight to me with tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you for everything, Dad. I couldn't have done this without you," she told me. At that very moment, every sacrifice I'd made felt entirely worth it. So naturally, when Lily announced her engagement to James, I was genuinely thrilled. I pictured myself walking her down the aisle. It felt symbolic, representing all the ups and downs we'd navigated together. I never mentioned it aloud, but deep down, I just assumed that honor would belong to me. After all, I'd been by her side for every milestone she ever faced. In the weeks before the wedding, excitement filled the air. Lily eagerly talked about the dress she had chosen, the flowers, the playlist, all the details. As usual, I gladly offered my support, chipping in for part of the reception, paying toward her dress, and taking care of additional expenses. I didn't expect any grand gestures in return, just a simple acknowledgement of the role I'd played in her life. Then, the wedding invitation arrived. Smiling, I opened it, anticipating seeing my name featured in a special way. But instead, it was just a formal guest invitation. My name wasn't highlighted anywhere special. Even worse, Lily had chosen Ethan to walk her down the aisle. Initially, I thought it must have been some kind of oversight. But when I gently asked Lily about it, her reply felt like a punch to the gut. "There's only one biological father," she told me quietly. "I've always wanted to give him this moment." Words can't describe how deeply that hurt me. All those years filled with love, effort, and sacrifices suddenly felt discarded, as if they never mattered at all. But what hurt the most wasn't even that she'd chosen him. It was the casual, almost indifferent way she told me, as if choosing me had never even crossed her mind. Her wedding day became one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. I showed up early, wearing a suit I'd carefully tailored just for the occasion, and quietly took my seat among the guests. Then I watched, painfully, as all eyes admired Ethan escorting Lily down the aisle. During the reception speeches, I kept waiting, hoping someone might mention me or my role in Lily's life. But no acknowledgement ever came. I was invisible, as if I wasn't even there. Something inside me snapped that day. The part of me that had always been ready to sacrifice, to give without question, just shut down completely. At the time, I didn't fully grasp it, but that painful moment sparked a shift that would soon change everything. That sight, Lily glowing with happiness as Ethan proudly walked her down the aisle, became permanently etched into my memory. Of course, she looked beautiful and radiant, exactly how a bride should look. Yet, for me, the scene was tinged with bitterness. Not because I didn't wish Lily joy, but because it painfully hit home that I was replaceable in her eyes. A week after the wedding, Lily and James jetted off for their luxurious honeymoon, a beautiful beachfront resort boasting stunning views and all the high-end amenities imaginable. I didn't ask much about the trip. Honestly, I just couldn't stomach conversations about something that symbolized the breaking point in my relationship with Lily. What caught me completely off guard, however, was Lily's behavior after returning home. She'd barely finished unpacking when she called me up, chatting cheerfully as if nothing was wrong. She excitedly described the pristine beaches and how James had surprised her with a candlelit dinner beneath the stars. I quietly listened, offering short replies, fighting hard not to let my emotions show. Then the conversation shifted in a direction that, deep down, I should have anticipated all along. "Dad?" she asked, and hearing her call me that again hurt more deeply than I'd like to admit. "I need a favor." She explained there had been some unexpected expenses during their honeymoon, and they were running low on funds. "Could you help us cover some of the costs?" For a moment, I couldn't even speak. The way she asked was so casual, so confident, as if my answer had already been decided, as if I'd automatically step in like I always had. I had always been the one who fixed problems, who made sacrifices, who stepped up whenever she needed anything. But this time, something within me resisted. Maybe it was pride that had finally been hurt too deeply, or perhaps it was just the heavy weight of years spent feeling invisible. Whatever it was, for the very first time, I didn't feel obligated to say yes. "I'm sorry, Lily," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm even though my heart was racing. "I can't help you this time." There was silence on the other end, and I could easily picture the shock and confusion on her face. "But you've always helped me before," she finally said, clearly stunned. I took a deep breath and replied firmly, "Maybe you should ask Ethan. He's your real dad, isn't he? Maybe he'll help you out." Another heavy pause followed. Eventually, she softly said, "I understand," and then abruptly hung up. There was no argument, no anger, just a sudden end to the conversation that left me feeling hollow. Later, Hannah confronted me. She called me cruel, accused me of abandoning Lily in a time of need. I told Hannah it wasn't about the money, it was about respect. I stood by Lily for over 20 years, Hannah, and when she had the chance to recognize that, she acted like none of it mattered. I refused to keep being her fallback whenever things don't go her way. Hannah didn't get it. In her mind, blood relations always took priority, even if that blood had only offered empty promises and disappointments. Our conversation ended in tense silence, and afterward, something shifted between us. An invisible wall had risen in our marriage, something that had never been there before. Lily hasn't reached out since. After our call, Hannah informed me that James was upset, claiming I'd abandoned Lily at a difficult moment. Apparently, Ethan had done exactly what I'd expected. He disappeared. No calls, no texts, nothing. Perhaps Lily was finally starting to realize the truth about him. But honestly, that didn't change what she had done or the way she'd made me feel. That night, as I sat alone in our living room, I replayed every memory of Lily, every moment I'd been there for her. Every time she'd smiled brightly at me and called me Dad, I realized something painful. I'd always believed that being called Dad was a title I'd earned, a conscious choice by Lily to acknowledge my role in her life. But now, I couldn't help but wonder if it had just been a convenient word she used whenever it suited her. I don't know if I'll ever fully get over this, but one thing is absolutely clear: this time, I can't be the one who keeps giving. Because honestly, I don't think I have anything left to give. It's been 3 months since the wedding, and even though I've done my best to keep my distance, drama just keeps finding its way back to me. Hannah constantly tries to mend things between Lily and me, giving me those looks filled with disappointment and quiet pleading, as if she's just waiting for me to cave and become the guy who never said no again. But what Hannah doesn't get, or refuses to acknowledge, is that something fundamentally shifted in me that day. I can't just rewind to how things used to be. Ever since that phone call, when I refused to pay for Lily's honeymoon, our relationship has completely dissolved. She hasn't reached out once, and while it stung at first, now it honestly feels more like a relief. No more thinly veiled requests for money hidden behind casual check-ins. But one thing I didn't anticipate was how quickly Lily's marriage started running into trouble. Hannah, still talking regularly with Lily, mentioned it casually during dinner one evening. Lily and James are having a rough time financially, she said with an exaggerated sigh. James lost his job, and they're having trouble covering their rent. I just continued eating, knowing exactly where this was heading. Hannah pressed further. Don't you think we should help them out? She's still our daughter. I put my fork down, took a deep breath, and finally spoke up. Hannah, I'm not her dad anymore. According to Lily, that title belongs exclusively to Ethan. So if she needs help, he's the one she should call. Hannah stared at me as if I just said something unforgivable. How can you be this cold? Lily's always depended on you. You can't just turn your back on her now. I laughed bitterly. Cold? Cold is how she treated me on her wedding day. Because that's exactly how it felt, cold and invisible. Like I'd never spent 20 years being the one who always showed up for her. If Ethan gets to be her father during all the big, joyful moments, he should step up for the difficult ones, too. That was the end of that conversation. Hannah stormed away, noisily putting her plate in the sink. That night, we lay in bed in complete silence, backs turned toward each other. It hurt knowing that this was impacting our marriage, but I couldn't keep being the man who always gave without getting anything back. Despite all that had happened, it didn't take Lily long to reach out again, though not directly. A week later, I received a message from James. Brief, but filled with desperation. Hey, it's James, Lily's husband. I need to talk with you about something important. Do you have some time? I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I let that message linger on my screen, a stark reminder of just how much things had changed. I read his words repeatedly, fully aware of what he wanted. Money. It always came back to money. Eventually, I decided to hear what he had to say. After all, what did I really have left to lose? We agreed to meet at a local cafe. James was already waiting at the cafe when I arrived, nervously tapping his foot, eyes fixed on a cup of coffee he'd barely touched. Without saying a word, I sat across from him, waiting for him to start talking first. Thanks for meeting me, he eventually said, though it sounded forced, almost like he felt obligated to say it rather than actually meaning it. I know things have been tense between you and Lily lately, he began awkwardly, but we're in a tight spot, and we thought you might be willing to help. There it was, the inevitable request I'd seen coming a mile away. Keeping my face neutral, I simply asked, what exactly do you need? Even though I already knew the answer. James sighed heavily, staring into his untouched coffee as if the right words might suddenly appear there. Lily and I have been struggling financially ever since the honeymoon. I lost my job recently, and now we're behind on our rent. If we don't pay within 2 weeks, we'll be evicted. I let his words settle for a moment, then calmly asked the one question he clearly wasn't expecting. Have you asked Ethan for help? James looked up, confusion evident on his face. Ethan? No, we haven't reached out to him. Lily thought, well, she assumed you'd help. You've always been there for her. I gave a bitter, ironic smile. Leaning forward slightly, I said, exactly. I've always been there for her. Yet when Lily had a choice to make, she chose Ethan. So no, James, I won't help this time. Maybe it's finally Ethan's turn to step up. James began arguing, insisting it wasn't fair for them to face eviction, emphasizing it wasn't just Lily, but him too. I raised a hand to interrupt him firmly. We're done here, I told him decisively. I wish you both the best, but I'm finished fixing your problems. I stood up and left James sitting alone, staring at his cold coffee, frustrated and silent. When I got home, Hannah was already waiting for me, looking as if she knew exactly how the meeting had gone. I didn't explain the details. She didn't need them. My expression told her clearly enough that I'd refused. Since then, Lily and James have stopped reaching out altogether. Hannah remains upset, though she stopped openly pressuring me to change my mind. Still, something inside me senses this situation isn't fully resolved yet. When a castle falls, there's always more rubble left behind. 6 months have passed since the wedding, and honestly, These months have felt strangely freeing. I've stuck to my decision not to get involved in Lily and James's problems anymore, even though it's meant living with Hannah's quiet resentment. She doesn't openly blame me anymore, but I can see it in her eyes. She hasn't forgiven me for what she considers a betrayal. No matter how many times I explain it's about respect, not money, she either can't or won't understand. Yet, this distance from Lily has unexpectedly brought relief. For the first time in years, I'm no longer weighed down by the burden of always having to hold everything together. I've started putting myself first again, returning to hobbies I used to love like woodworking, reconnecting with old friends, things I'd ignored for far too long. Initially, I felt guilty about prioritizing myself, but now I recognize it as necessary. Even so, the drama hasn't fully disappeared. A few weeks back, Hannah broke the news to me that Lily and James had officially been evicted. They couldn't scrape together enough money to catch up on rent, and eventually, their landlord ran out of patience. Now they're staying with James's mother in a tiny, cramped apartment, hardly big enough for two people, much less a newly married couple. Hannah was furious when she told me. "None of this would have happened if you just helped them," she snapped, her voice filled with that familiar blame I've grown accustomed to. I didn't respond. There was no point. In Hannah's eyes, I'd always be the villain whenever Lily faced hardship. What Hannah doesn't realize, or perhaps refuses to, is that, deep down, I'm convinced I made the right choice. Lily pushed me aside, and now she's experiencing the consequences of her own decisions. Ironically enough, Hannah mentioned that Ethan has been completely absent throughout this entire ordeal. He apparently didn't even bother responding when Lily reached out to him for help. Not surprising, Ethan has always been unreliable. Still, it strikes me as interesting. Lily worked so hard to elevate Ethan onto a pedestal, and now that she genuinely needs him, he's nowhere to be found. A few nights ago, while Hannah was cooking dinner, she said something that nearly made me burst out laughing. Lily told me Ethan promised he'd help them find a new place soon, but he still hasn't followed through. He claims he's just waiting for his finances to settle. I raised an eyebrow, staring at her incredulously. And Lily still believes him? After a lifetime of broken promises, she actually thinks he's going to come through now. My tone wasn't angry, just genuinely curious. Hannah sighed deeply, giving me a sad look. "He's her father," she said quietly, as if those 3 words explained everything. That brief conversation stuck with me. For years, I'd done my best to fill the emptiness Ethan had left in Lily's life. But now I wondered if it had all been pointless. Maybe, in Lily's mind, biology always outweighed actions. Maybe my competition wasn't ever Ethan himself, but just the simple fact that he existed. Then, about a week ago, Lily finally reached out. Surprisingly, this time it wasn't a request for money. She sent a short message asking if we could meet. Said she wanted to talk. I hesitated for a long while before responding, but eventually curiosity got the better of me. Lily and I met at a park we used to visit when she was little. When I arrived, she was already sitting on a bench, nervously playing with her hands. As I approached, she stood up and gave me an awkward hug. It felt forced, not genuine, but I politely hugged her back anyway. We sat silently for a few uncomfortable minutes before she began talking, not about why she'd asked to meet, though. Instead, she told me how hard life had been since moving in with James's mother, the tension building in her marriage, and how desperately she missed having a place of her own. I sat quietly, letting her vent. It was clear she'd needed to get it all out. Eventually, Lily finally got to the point. "Dad," she began, a word that once held deep meaning but now just felt empty. "I know I've disappointed you. I know how much the wedding hurt you, and honestly, I didn't realize the damage until it was too late." I didn't respond immediately, waiting for her to continue. Inside, I felt torn between disbelief, sadness, and lingering resentment. Lily took a deep breath and added, "I just want to say I'm sorry for how things turned out. It was never my intention to make you feel replaced." "But you did," I replied, calm yet firm. "And not just at your wedding, Lily. Every time you ignored the things I'd done for you, every time you chose to see Ethan as something he never was, you did exactly that. You say you never meant to replace me, but honestly, I'm not sure I was ever truly in the place you put him." Lily looked down, clearly shaken by my response. Perhaps she'd expected me to simply forgive and forget, returning to how things used to be. But things couldn't just go back. Some damage, once done, is permanent. Our conversation ended shortly afterward. As we said goodbye, she softly told me she hoped we could rebuild our relationship eventually. I didn't reply, not because I didn't want that to happen, but because I wasn't sure if it even could. Lily hadn't just broken my heart, she'd shattered something even more valuable, my trust in her. Then, I did something neither Hannah nor Lily will ever forgive me for. Honestly, I don't even know if forgiveness is something I deserve to ask for. Since the wedding, my marriage with Hannah has deteriorated beyond anything I ever imagined. What began as emotional distance gradually widened into an impossible gap. The love, the closeness, even the respect we once had, all of it feels gone. We still share the same house, but it no longer feels like we share a life. Since that day, we've had no intimacy at all. At first, I assumed it was temporary, just stress or disappointment causing tension. But as months passed, it became clear Hannah wasn't merely upset, she was resentful. She held me responsible for Lily's troubles. That resentment eventually poisoned every aspect of our relationship. Nights we once spent chatting or watching movies together turned silent and cold. Every attempt I made to reconnect ended with her pulling away further, raising walls between us. And amid that loneliness, someone else unexpectedly stepped into my life. Olivia, Hannah's best friend. She'd always been part of our lives, like a fun Aunt to Lily. She was known for bringing extravagant gifts, funny stories, and plenty of laughter. But after the wedding, something shifted. She started calling more often, checking on how I was holding up. Initially, I thought she was just trying to mediate things between Hannah and me. But soon I realized it was deeper than that. Olivia was the only person who genuinely listened. She said the things no one else did, that my feelings mattered, that my hurt was justified. She acknowledged I'd been treated unfairly, agreeing Hannah's resentment wasn't right or fair to me. Those conversations became something I genuinely looked forward to. With Olivia, I was no longer the villain of the story. I won't claim it was planned, because it wasn't. It just happened naturally, like a river slowly carving itself a new path. One evening, after another long conversation, Olivia and I sat silently, just looking at each other. We talked about everything. About how invisible I felt at home, how cold Hannah had become, and how it seemed my life was unraveling completely. Then suddenly, Olivia reached over, took my hand gently, and said something that left me stunned. You deserve happiness, and they're not letting you have it. I'm not sure what exactly compelled me to lean in. Maybe it was her words, maybe the way she looked at me, but before I knew it, I was kissing her. And she didn't pull away. That night, I didn't go home. I spent hours with Olivia, talking, laughing, and finally letting out months of pent-up emotions. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt noticed. I felt wanted. But most importantly, I felt truly understood. I knew deep down what we were doing was wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Olivia became my refuge. She was someone who saw me clearly. With her, I rediscovered the connection I'd lost with Hannah. Hannah soon began suspecting something. She watched me closely whenever I returned home late or stepped outside to respond to messages. But she never confronted me directly. Olivia struggled with guilt too, yet neither of us regretted our choices. I knew it couldn't last. Once Hannah found out, there'd be no going back. But for that moment, at least, I didn't feel alone anymore. 2 years have passed since then, and looking back, it feels like a distant storm. Yet the scars remain clear. I've rebuilt my life, but the damage done can't ever be fully undone. Hannah and Lily completely cut me off, and in some ways, it freed me. When I finally confessed, Hannah's reaction was far more intense than I ever imagined. Before I could say much, she confronted me directly. "What's going on?" she demanded, her voice shaking with anger. "You've changed. Tell me the truth." I didn't hold back. Olivia and I have been seeing each other. She was there for me when no one else was. Hannah's expression shifted from shock to rage. Her next words still haunt me. "So all of it meant nothing to you? Everything we built, just gone?" I stood there speechless. Everything I'd done was to keep our family together, but somehow I'd failed anyway. "Hannah," I replied, my voice trembling. "You were so focused on saving Lily that you never noticed me falling apart." She screamed in a way that echoed through the house. "This betrayal is unforgivable. How could you destroy our family?" Lily walked in shortly afterward, already aware of what had happened. Her voice was ice cold. "I thought you were better than this. But you never really cared, did you? You just wanted to play the hero. Look what you've done." "That's not true," I argued, shaking. "You pushed me aside, chose Ethan over and over. When things fell apart, you expected me to fix it. But nothing I ever gave was enough for you." "Was it enough?" Hannah snapped back. "Nothing justifies your betrayal. Lily, let's go." Just like that, they told me to leave and never contact them again. It hurt deeply, yet at the same time, I felt relief. There was nothing left worth fighting for. I moved into a small apartment soon afterward. The divorce was exhausting, but the real pain wasn't in the legal process. It was accepting that the life I'd built was gone forever. Through everything, Olivia remained by my side. She became my comfort, my reason to keep going. She never excused my mistakes, but she never judged me for them either. Months later, just as I was finally pulling my life back together, I received an unexpected message from Lily. "Dad, I know I hurt you. I know I failed you. But you'll always be my father. I'm so sorry. I know things can't ever go back, but I'll always love you." I didn't respond immediately. The wounds were still too fresh. Maybe one day, I'll find peace with everything that's happened. But for now, I'm determined to move forward, no matter what I've left behind. Thanks for listening. If this story spoke to you, leave a like and subscribe for more.